Hi there and welcome to Hearthside. My name's Michelle. I am the author on this blog and I'm just going through all my old posts, creating a video version of them for the purpose of accessibility. The post that I'm looking at today is called What Makes Media Religious, and it was just sort of a headcanon I had about media and how it portrays religion. So the first part of the article, I'm talking specifically about media that has a religious context that's Christian, just because the majority of the people living here are Christians. So I started off with the most obvious. The Bible is definitely religious media or a religious text, and I don't think anyone would argue that it wasn't. But then I'm looking at, well, what else makes it religious? Like, for example, texts that were very clearly by the creators made to have that Christian context, such as the movie Jesus Christ Superstar, or the book The Shack, which I believe is a movie now, or the movie Noah. So those ones, obviously that was the intent, that they followed those biblical stories to some extent or portrayed the Christian God. And then I'm looking at things that it's not quite as overt, such as The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis, and all 7 of those books, which, like, they are meant, the author meant for them to talk about God and Christianity, but it's not quite as obvious because there's a layer of fantasy elements overlaid over top of it. Another one that you might not think of is the Harry Potter series, and like, it's not really as obvious. They don't really talk directly about religion in that one, but they're still celebrating all the Christian holidays. So at that point, are you saying that this is religious media, or just that the author happens to be religious? And I know that also some Christian groups had a lot of problems with the material of Harry Potter because it had to do with sorcery and stuff. Yeah, so that one's definitely getting into the gray area category. And then going a step further than that, looking at media that is meant as religious parody, such as the movie Sister Act. So is that religious media because it's poking fun at that religion? Or the Philip Pullman series with the Golden Compass, I think it's called his Dark Materials as the trilogy, and that's definitely poking fun at Christianity mostly, but religion possibly in general. So that's where it's starting to get gray, and I had to start with talking about the Christian media first, just so that we had sort of a baseline of understanding, because once we move into heathenry being not the main religion of anyone anywhere really anymore, it gets even more gray, because even if we're looking at the lore, nobody really considers that to be like the equivalent of the Bible, or a religious text that you have to follow that closely necessarily. So there's that element to it, and also the fact that people who read say the Eddas, some of them are heathen, but a lot of them are also academics. So even our own mythology, our own lore, it's hard to say if it's actually would be considered a religious text. It's definitely religious media to some extent, but a lot of people would say that it is historical religious, because they're not even aware of heathenry. So that's an extra layer of complication. And then I was looking at other things that have our gods in them. For example, the most glaring one, which is Marvel's take on Thor and Loki. I would argue that's not religious media at all. And I don't know, a few people might disagree with that, but the portrayal of Thor and Loki is really its own creation. It obviously was created by someone who isn't heathen. It wasn't meant to poke fun at heathens, because I don't think that they even were aware of heathenry when they created it, not in the modern sense anyways. So I would say that isn't a religious media of any sort. But, I mean, a few people might worship the Marvel Thor or Marvel Loki. I don't know. That's possible. And then I was also looking at American Gods by Neil Gaiman. And I would say I'm like on the fence about that one. I don't think that Neil Gaiman, the author, intended it to be religious media. It's more of a commentary on religion in general. I don't think he's pagan, but I don't actually know. But it's got pagan undertones and pagan ideas, and it portrays some of the heathen gods fairly accurately. I would say more accurately than Marvel, for at least that much more accurate. And so then I was just sort of like spitballing questions about what exactly makes the media religious. So is it the creator's intent, or is it the creator's bias or background? Is it what the consumer is taking from it? And if so, is it what the majority of consumers think about it, or is it what like a specific religious community thinks about it? So like I didn't really have any answers. This was just, as I said, a headcanon of sorts, and just fun. Yeah, so that's about it, and I will see you next time.